For today's Physiologically Speaking Live, I have to talk about what I think is perhaps one of the dumbest public health ideas in the last decade, and that is the idea of putting airports in gyms. Okay, I'm being a bit hyperbolic here, but let me just tell you all what I'm talking about. So, yesterday, Paul Saladino, MD, who most of you may be familiar with, he is a used to be carnivore advocate. Now he's sort of this animal based advocate guy, super into health, super into fitness. Also shares some sometimes uncontroversial and just odd takes. I sometimes have beefs with him. Beef, no pun intended. He's the carnivore guy. Ha ha ha. Um, and I have a running thread on X that's Paul Saladino cancels, because what Paul Saladino does well is just post videos of himself going into grocery stores, finding snacks and things that he wouldn't eat, or going through drive-thrus and telling you why you shouldn't eat this and why it's bad for your health. His intents are good. Sometimes his delivery is poor. Anyways, yesterday he posts a picture and a couple videos in the airport with Robert F. Kennedy and Secretary Duffy from the Department of Transportation, I assume. He says, gyms are coming to airports. I had the privilege of spending time with Secretary Kennedy and Secretary Duffy as the DOT announced a new initiative to bring gyms into U.S. airports. This is a $1 billion grant program that airports across the country can apply for to build real spaces for people to move while they travel. The problem is that airports and travel in general are one of the most sedentary experiences in American life. Think about it. The traffic getting there, the waiting, the long flights, hours and hours without movement. And we know that being sedentary is not good for us. He goes on to cite a few studies from PubMed to inevitably provide some validation to his claims. Imagine having a place to actually move your body before a flight or during a layover. This is the kind of change that can meaningfully improve health for millions of travelers. And the craziest part, this entire opportunity began from one story I posted in an airport. You never know who's watching or where a simple idea can lead. Anyway, I won't read the rest of the post. It's long. You can go to Paul Saladino, MD on X and find what I'm talking about. I then kind of quoted this yesterday or posted something about it where I said, sorry, let me find what I said. Putting gyms in airports is probably one of the all-time worst public health initiatives ever imagined. A gym bro fantasy that sounds great in theory, but will be terrible in practice if it even gets there. And I kind of stand by that statement, and I will discuss kind of why maybe, again, I think there's a lot of more nuance to this proposal to put gyms in the airports than Paul would put on, or that this idea would just put on at face value. Putting a gym in an airport is just objectively a terrible idea for several reasons, and you can just imagine them. I probably don't have to tell them to you. One being that it's just, I mean, the fact that that's going to logistically complicate anything about air travel, not only for the travelers, but for people in the airport who don't want to go to the gym, security, just sanitation, all kinds of things. That's just multiple problems there. The second reason, and I think the main reason why I kind of have a beef with this, is the fact that I think they're marketing this strategy as a way to improve public health. Air travel is so sedentary, and if we put gyms in airports, it's going to get people to move more. Well, no, because you know who's going to use these airports? It's going to be the people who already exercise. And that's why I said in my post that this is a gym bro fantasy. It's the guy who already works out, the guy or girl who already works out 4 to 5 times per week, has another reason or another excuse to get in a workout when they're traveling. This is not for the person who has never stepped foot in a gym before, who suddenly en route to Orlando, Florida, is going to take a layover in Dallas, Fort Worth and decide to take up exercise. This is not going to happen. It's not this transformative public health initiative. It's just something that's going to provide a gym for people who already work out to work out. And I think the fact that they're trying to pretend like it is this thing that's going to massively change public health is, in my opinion, kind of disingenuous. The second thing that I had wrong with his post is that he mentions that the air travel is one of the most sedentary parts of American life. And I think that is completely the opposite. I think that if you looked at the average person's step count on a day that they traveled compared to a day where they were working from home or from an office, they probably double or triple their steps. You're walking from your car to the airport terminal. You're walking to the gate, or from the terminal to your gate. You're probably walking around, getting food, going to the bathroom. You're actually taking a lot of steps. Sure, there's a lot of downtime if you plan your travel poorly, I guess. And you're there a couple hours early. Yeah, you can sit around, you can lounge around, you can do work, you can eat. But overall, I feel like most people are probably walking a little bit more when they travel versus when they're not. So I would disagree with the fact that it's one of the most sedentary parts, aside from the fact that, okay, yes, when you get on a plane, you are stuck in a seat for several hours, which is not good. It's not good for cardiovascular health. It's not good for your blood flow. It's not good for any of that. Will putting gyms in the airports meaningfully make a dent in the negative health effects of air travel? Potentially. That's potentially a good strategy. But what one could also do is just kind of walk around, the airport with a backpack or a suitcase. So I think, I don't know. I just think that this idea sounds good. And what I do think that is going on here is the gyms in an airport is kind of the branding of it. But I think that there is a deeper plan here that Paul is kind of outlining, and he has since taken to X to kind of explain. It's a grant that's going to allow airports to implement several different types of things. Maybe this is like playgrounds for kids, or maybe it's I don't know, little stations where people can do sort of these parkour type things or take part in these little exercise snacks. I think that is kind of the idea, rather than having like a full scale Gold's Gym in an airport. So again, I think I'm being a little bit tongue in cheek here, where I'm like, this is awful. This is a terrible idea. A gym in an airport is overall just a bad idea. So where this story gets even funnier, again, if you know sort of the history, not really the history, but my feelings about Paul Saladino and the fact that I sometimes troll him on X, which is all in good fun. I don't try to make enemies. If somebody's a good faith actor, I think that we can have some fun on X. But where this story gets funnier is that I logged on to X earlier today, and Paul quoted a post. He quoted two posts, actually. One, he quoted my post about putting gyms in the airport is a terrible idea. And then he also quoted one of the posts from Dr. Rhonda Patrick from my recent episode with her, which if you haven't all watched that, go check it out. Go to foundmyfitness.com. And the latest episode on that website is me and Dr. Rhonda Patrick. We're chatting about a new study. We do a little journal club about a study on physical activity, intensity, and health outcomes. So quick plug for that. So Paul quoted Dr. Rhonda Patrick and said, this is a great podcast from Found My Fitness and Brady Holmer that describes the benefits of short, intense exercise bouts. Providing space for these short workouts, less sweating, is part of the vision for airport mini gyms, which we are working to make a reality. I'd love for Found My Fitness and Brady Holmer to share their ideas on how we can make these mini gyms better and help people of all exercise abilities utilize them. And then when he quoted my post, he said, I enjoyed your podcast with Found My Fitness. You talked a lot about the benefits of intense micro workouts. This is part of the vision for these airport mini gyms. The goal is to create a space where people of all abilities can come together to move for exercise snacks in one of the most sedentary places in America. Secretary Duffy and I are open to connecting and hearing your thoughts on how to make these mini gyms more effective. We're working hard to make sure they become a reality soon. So again, looks like the idea is to sort of have these mini gyms. I don't know what that means. Maybe it just means a space to the side of the airport. I mean, I know they have these for kids. I've taken my son to one before when we're waiting for the airport. They have these little play areas for children. So I assume something similar could be implemented for adults. Maybe it's just a 25 foot by 25 foot space where adults can go to do quote unquote exercise snacks. Maybe there is like a couple dumbbells or a couple kettlebells or just nothing. Maybe it's just a padded area where people can do like bodyweight squats or push-ups without feeling uncomfortable. Because obviously doing that at like your gate would kind of be odd. TSA might take you away for doing that. So mini gym, I don't know what that means. I'd like to see what it means. And heck, if Paul Saladino wanted to chat about it, I'm sure I have some great ideas. Maybe I could share. It'd be kind of fun to maybe take part in that. So anyway, I guess this sounds like a great idea. I'm not against the idea of making air travel less sedentary, more active. I'm not I'm not opposed to making any area of life more active, less active. I think more movement, the better. Again, that podcast I just did with Dr. Rhonda Patrick, we talk about how just moving throughout the day is like literally one of the best things that you can do for your health, especially in today's modern society where we're sitting, 8, 10, 12 hours per day. So I'm all for it. I'm all for initiatives that are going to get people to move more. I think, do we need to do it though with air travel? I think that is my biggest gripe with this whole thing is air travel really the place to implement this? What is already one of the most complex parts of life, the fact that you have the security and everything else that people deal with air travel. Do we want to make that more complex by adding mini gyms in airports where objectively a lot of people just aren't spending a lot of their time? Or would we be better off investing $1 billion or more elsewhere in different public health initiatives? I think the latter would probably be true. But again, I mean, if this is something potentially to try, I guess that is a win. I think I would be much more averse to them, which inevitably they'll probably try to do, change the food environment of airports. I mean, I think that would have a much greater public health impact than putting these mini gyms in airports. Maybe,
Adair Leiden ring.
sorry, my wife is calling me. She must not be on this Substack Live watching me.
Adair Leiden ring.
Rude. This is why we don't do Substack Lives. Anyway, would we be better off investing in other things? Would we be better off maybe not serving beer in the airport at 9 a.m.? I think that would potentially be a better solution. I can get brisket and beer in the Austin airport at 4 a.m. And I like my ability to do that. America, personal freedoms. But, I don't know. I think doing things like that can maybe be more beneficial than these mini gyms. Anyway, I'm curious to see where this goes. Heck, maybe I get involved in this somehow and help share my ideas, because I really do think these micro workouts, these constant low level movements, if it is in the airport, but anywhere in life, can be beneficial. So I don't know. Let's see where this goes. It's an interesting idea. I think I'm not against any idea. I'm not against creativity when it comes to physical activity and promoting health. So I think we have people at the helm who have some good ideas. The implementation may not be there yet. And I think they do need help from people with different ideas, different experts. Whether I consider mine an expert or not, that's for you to decide potentially. But anyway, just wanted to share that. That was kind of on my mind today. That's all I got on for the Physiologically Speaking Live for today. Just maybe some ramblings on airport gyms. But I'd like to hear what all of you think. What do you think? Do you want to see gyms in airports? Do you think it's a stupid idea? What do you think would be better? And more importantly, do you want to see a collaboration between me and Paul Saladino? That's the real question. So if you have thoughts on any of that, I'd love to hear in the comments, and I will speak to you all soon.